Another flow on from that, when you're adding in just those fields and metrics that you need, is to make sure you do follow those naming conventions that you may have. I touched on this before when looking at names and business names and descriptions that are easily understandable and match the organization that they're being created for. But you also want to make sure these are easily understandable by making sure everything is unique. So you don't have three fields that have the same name that might have different purposes or come from different tables. So you want to use those unique names to avoid any confusion or misuse that you might have. And also you really do want to try to avoid duplicating your items as both fields and metrics, because again that can cause confusion. The only place you might usually bring that across is something like maybe a date field, because with date fields they can be either a dimension date or they can be a metric date, and those two items will have some different filtering options available, so you may have both of those in a view to address different ways of filtering within your reports. Also, as I mentioned before, with naming conventions, you want to make sure these are accepted organizational naming conventions. So a nice example might be, we've got a year field, it's dimension, so we say year bracket dim close bracket. So if we're looking at an example of fields, this is one view that we've got set up. We've got two invoiced fields or two invoiced metrics. We might not know which one has a particular purpose just from face value, so we may want to update our view to make sure that now we've got some more useful naming conventions. So we can have this is invoicing for camp, whereas this is bookings invoice, so we know instantly where it can be used, the context, and which kind of reports it may be dropped into. So really making sure it's as easy to understand as possible for your report creators and report consumers. We also do, with Yellowfin, we also do see a lot of interactive functionality, so we try to really encourage the use of that interaction between the user and their reports and content. One way you can do this is by using custom hierarchies. So in the metadata level of Yellowfin, you can define custom hierarchies, and this lets you then add or allow that extra interactivity when you're creating the reports. So this could be in the form of something like drill down. So what you can easily do is create hierarchies that can be used with that drill down functionality. So it might be a set of fields that you create a hierarchy out of, that you link together, that a user can drill up and down through. The one we see most often might be something like a time hierarchy. So you have your year, quarter, month, date as a hierarchy that you can drop into your report and allow that drill down on. So another thing, as well as the hierarchies, you may also want to create an item both as a standalone field and also as part of a hierarchy, because one thing you will see if you drop a field that's part of a hierarchy into your report, say I dropped in my year from a date hierarchy, if I tried to drop in the month as well, it would let me know that I can't have more than one part of the hierarchy in there. So it might be a case of I have an extra standalone month field that I can drop in as well, just to add to flexibility, so you can do those more complex reports that you might be looking for. So if you're looking for how to set up your drill hierarchies within Yellowfin, this will be done at, again, the metadata level. So this will be step 2, where you're dragging and dropping your fields across to your categories. And you see here that we've dragged across maybe a year, quarter, month. And what we've done, if you double click on any of those fields, there'll be a hierarchy option there where you can say what the next level of drill down is. So I'd say on my year, I want to drill down to quarter. I double click on quarter. I want to use my hierarchy and drill down to month. And from month, I go to date. And that's created here is a hierarchy that you see that's denoted by the link between the fields. So that means now whenever anyone drops one of those fields into a report, they can enable the drill down functionality for their report users, and obviously add that interactivity, that flexibility to the report. Okay, and probably the last point we'll be looking at here is really, again, around the organization of your fields and metrics within your metadata level. So what you really want to do is make sure it's as managed and as organized as possible. Again, this flows across to the report creators and the report consumers, because the way that you do structure your fields and metrics at the metadata level is shown at that first step of report creation. So you'll see on the left, you'll see all your fields and metrics, and what you'll see is the categories that I'm mentioning here. So the categories can be easily created, and that allows you to then do things like logically group your fields and metrics by functions, by types of fields, by areas of reporting. So you could have a category which is all my geographical fields and a category which is all my metrics. And that makes it quick and easy to locate when the user wants to find that field and drop it into their report. The other thing that you do have is that categories created are transferable, so you can reuse them in a number of views. So you might have your, as I mentioned before, geography category that I can reuse in 6 different views, and add that level of grouping to some different views, and allow for easier location of fields and metrics to really speed up that report development process. So that's if you're looking at your best practices for your metadata level. Those are some of the key points we do emphasize and do suggest. So hopefully that's given you some good information around how to build your views up, how to make the most effective views, but also flow on to make the most effective report development and report consumption processes for you. So thanks again for this session.